2025 was an awesome year for movies. It had something for everyone, from Sinners to Superman, from F1 to A1, but it also had a movie so bad it was good. War of the Worlds is what the world needed last year, something to bring everyone together, unite us as we all collectively on an awful movie. It was beautiful. For those unaware, War of the Worlds was a 2025 remake of the H.G. Wells novel, but instead of Tom Cruise running around, it was Ice Cube sitting in one spot for the entire invasion. It was dreadfully awful and includes some of the worst acting and writing that I have ever seen, but at the very least, it was fun to watch because of how bad it was.
Boy, this is a top secret military installation. They don't let thumb drives in the building.
So why am I starting this review for Mercy by talking about War of the Worlds? Well, not for a good reason. As you may have seen when the trailers first dropped a few months ago, it is a movie where, and stop me if this sounds familiar, a mostly beloved actor sits in a room and watches screens and security feeds of a much larger event happening around them. It stars everyone's second or third favorite Garfield and Rebecca Ferguson for some reason. Directed by Timur Bekmambetov, I hope I said that right, who also produced War of the Worlds last year, and of course brought us such excellent movies like Ben-Hur and Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. So I knew I was in for a treat when I went and saw this movie last night. In fact, I saw this before the critics embargo lifted, so there's a chance that you're watching this before most of the other reviews are even out yet. All of that preamble out of the way, is Mercy good? No. No, it really isn't. I want to respect that some of you are still going to want to watch Mercy even after this video, and that's totally fine. I respect that. I've divided this review up into 3 parts. First, this part, the no spoiler side, where I'm still going to tell you some important things that you should know before going in, because I think the marketing has been misleading. Then I'm going to talk about some minor things along the way, some events that happened in the first half of this movie. And then I have a whole other section just for the end, major spoilers. I'm going to hold off on that for now, obviously, but just so you know. The most important takeaway is that there were 2 trailers for this movie. One of them was fairly honest about what it was, and one of them was lying. Quick side note, this trailer says, from a producer of The Dark Knight and Oppenheimer, which is a crazy thing to put on a trailer. This guy also did Uncharted and Scoob, but I guess they didn't want to put that on the trailer. All that aside, do not go to this movie and expect it to be anything other than 90 minutes of Chris Pratt sitting in a room and talking to AI Rebecca Ferguson. That is the movie. One of the trailers makes it look like he's a lot more a part of the action, and if you expect that going in, you are going to be very disappointed. Movies that take place in one room absolutely can work. Some of my 12 Angry Men is a movie that takes place mostly in one room and is excellent because it has interesting characters and a deeper story. This movie does not have those. Chris Pratt plays Chris Pratt in this movie, and to really reinforce that, they just named his character Chris. Rebecca Ferguson is either entirely devoid of personality, you know, because she's an AI, or is doing something I'm not going to get into yet, but it really doesn't work for me. Ziggy, I hear you saying, I don't care if the story sucks. I don't care if the characters are paper thin. Is it at least fun to watch? Because War of the Worlds, that was fun to watch. And unfortunately, no. It has some ludicrous things happen. Some things that made me laugh out loud in the theater. But as a whole, it is just too generic and by the numbers to have the insane heights of, well, this.
Faith can load it here and I can get it to you.
How?
Prime air.
Prime air.
Oh, it's the future of delivery. They've been training us for months.
The best thing I could say is that the movie has some pretty good visual effects. It lacks in some departments, and some really solid editing, with the exception that I'm almost certain I caught things that were very clearly reshoots, didn't quite flow as well. The movie as a whole is just a mess, and that's just a bummer. Also, definitely do not see it in 3D. I watched it in 3D, and I did not remember it was in 3D until the credits rolled, and I was like, oh shit, I still have my glasses on. Okay, now I'm gonna start jumping into some spoilers, so if you still want to see this movie, and again, I recommend against it, now's the time to go. All right. The movie starts with Chris Pratt waking up in the Mercy chair to a literal ad of the Mercy program being played to him. Now, I understand there would be some sort of intro to the trial if you're in the Mercy program, but it's talking about crime statistics and it has a news report in it. So it's clearly more of like a business pitch meeting that they just like quickly reworked a little bit so it can just be an exposition scene. It's also really lazy exposition. The premise of the movie is related to Chris Pratt. He is on trial for the murder of his wife and he needs to get his guilt threshold down below 92%, or he'll be executed in 90 minutes. Coincidentally, the average length of a movie. Hey. Also, I did time it. The clock runs fast. It does not actually go for exactly 90 minutes. That easily could have won me 1 star back. That would have been pretty cool. Some very important things are set up in the beginning of this movie that they are later 100% going to just ignore. For example, this AI judge tells Chris that he needs to think logically because she can only lower his guilt level through facts and evidence. And the evidence isn't looking too good for old Chrissy boy. He is an alcoholic who is recorded on a Ring branded camera. You're going to be seeing a lot of those. Yelling at his wife, who insists they talk through a lawyer instead, punches the camera down, and was the only one seen at the scene. He has her blood on him, his fibers were on the scene, and they go through a bunch of home videos that basically show him being an angry, violent drunk who the daughter is actively scared of. Okay, some interesting things they bring to the table here. What is really interesting is that they do really go out of their way to show you that he sucks at the beginning of this movie. He's kind of an asshole, and you start to think, oh, maybe they're gonna play with some things here. He does not have a character arc. He has a character plateau. He is exactly the same in the beginning of the movie as he is by the end. He is Chris Pratt. Regardless though, it seems like he is the obvious suspect for the murder, so the 96% guilt that he starts with makes a lot of sense. That being said, they have no idea what to do with Rebecca Ferguson during these opening scenes. She is often seen squinting at Chris Pratt to try to see his reactions, which is really weird. That's a very human tell for an AI judge to be programmed with, but whatever. Okay, so Chris gets to make 2 calls, one to his wife's boss, who is also his AA sponsor, who I cannot remember his name. I'm gonna call him Benny. And one to his daughter, who just keeps asking, did you kill my mom? Which is a fair question to ask, actually. And Chris Pratt is going through the, no, kiddo, I promise I didn't kill your mom, even though I went to a bar immediately after and got drunk and fought a bunch of cops and actually can't remember anything that happened. So, not a good look. I'd love to tell you they do something interesting with the whole I can't remember the facts thing, like playing with the idea, like, is the AI giving you the truth? Does it even know what, like, facts are, or, like, what facts can be? Could it be wrong? And the answer is no. The AI is at no point during this movie wrong. It is basically omniscient, like a super computer level intelligence, when the plot needs, of course. And so you just never question it. When Chris does find some evidence that does help his case, his guilt level goes down very little. Like, I'm talking a % at a time, if that. However, at one point, Chris has gone through the obvious red herrings and he just gives up. The judge tells him that he's at a 98% guilt, which is apparently the highest it can go, which is something we'll get back to later. But he just gives up. And so the movie makes a really interesting choice in having Rebecca Ferguson, AI judge, give him a pep talk. From this point forward, Judge Maddox, who up until this point has been cold and calculating and very neutral, is aggressively helpful. She starts to lead the investigation in a way where you start to wonder, like, do you know who did it? Did you do it, Rebecca? You can tell us. We can't charge AI with murder yet. It is also around this time that Chris Pratt tells the AI judge that he is going off of his gut. And the AI judge, I shit you not, asks what a hunch is, which is a ludicrous question to ask if you're this AI judge. They call it the judge, jury, and executioner. If the judge, jury, and executioner of my trial ask me what a hunch is, you're cooked. Like, I'm throwing in the towel. At least they captured that part of AI right. Sometimes it just does not work. Around this point, it is revealed that the reason for Chris's alcoholism is because he blames himself for his old partner's death. Because when they pulled someone over, He got a call from his wife, he answered it, and then his partner got backed into their police car. He then cuts to being inside the police car. There's some weird things that happen there that don't quite make sense to me, but he then, Ray, the partner, yells, "You need to get that bastard. Do not take me to a hospital," which is crazy. That is a crazy choice. Chris pit maneuvers the guy, which is shown to be really cool and awesome. And then he awkwardly gets out of the car and starts chasing him into the beach and into the water. And then, I think, very clearly wants to murder this man. And I think the film is a little ambiguous on whether or not he should have killed this man. But he doesn't. He instead arrests him. And then, surprise, surprise, in court, the man is found not guilty for the murder, which doesn't make any sense to me. And listen, I understand that sometimes people get away with murder, okay? Bad people get away with doing bad things. I don't understand how that's even a little bit possible here, though. There are multiple cameras and multiple witnesses. It feels like it's the most slam dunk case a case has ever been, but the film needs an example of how bad crime is so they can be fully in favor of the Mercy program. And truly, I feel like at this point, the film itself, the message is that the Mercy program is good. I was really expecting more of a conversation there. The AI surveillance state that can access all cloud connected phones to get videos, passwords, phone calls, GPS information. Sometimes it even activates people's webcams in a police station to talk to them more directly. That is what the film seems to be in favor of, which is crazy. It's a ludicrous decision, especially considering the ending, which I haven't gotten to yet. Well, wait. While going through these ethically acquired videos, they come across Chris's daughter's secret alternate Instagram account, which, I shit you not, is called Raver_gamer, which is how you know she's young and cool. She posts a video of her exploring her house because she heard a noise. And this noise is really important because it happens while Chris is still at work, meaning it couldn't have been him, which is worth about 1% off on the guilt meter. So that's cool. The video shows that the basement door is cracked, and they really do like a zoom and enhance kind of thing. I think they call it like touch it up, to show that despite behind the door it was pitch black before, they touch it up and all of a sudden you can perfectly see a pair of hands touching this doorknob. It will later be revealed that this person has been there for a long time. So why did the noise happen? And why would they still be holding on to the door handle even as Raver Gamer is exploring that? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, I have talked about all that I can now without talking about the ending and the killer. So if you, for some reason, still want to see this movie and you want to remain unspoiled on that ending part, now's your last chance. Okay, you're in for a doozy. Okay, for the last 40 minutes or so, Chris has been tracking a lead given to him from his wife's side piece. He mentions to Chris that she felt bad about the cover-up at work, which is a super normal thing to mention to the person that you're cheating on your husband with. Chris investigates this and discovers that the vague chemical shipping company that his wife works at has been stealing a chemical called UG, which is whatever is most convenient to the plot at that moment. At first, they think it's meth. They accuse the wrong guy, who then tells them, drumroll please, he was only covering for his boss, Chris's sponsor, Benny, from season 1 of Stranger Things. Up to this point, there are really only 2 suspects, because those are the only ones that would make any damn sense at all. They're the only 2 named characters, and that's this guy and Chris's daughter. Now, get me out here. They could have stuck a really sick landing at the end. The daughter has a secret boyfriend who says that I'll take care of your dad if you let me, which is a way more interesting way that they could have taken this. Because if Chris starts to realize that his daughter is responsible for this murder and pinning it on him, he can obviously start to unravel the case and pin it on her, putting her in the same position. Or he can realize the anchor he's been on her life and assume responsibility, not just for the murder, but also all of the damage he's caused up until that point. It could be a really interesting story. But you also have to consider that that doesn't involve a semi-truck barreling down the LA streets. So was it ever really a question? So obviously they go with Benny, but why Benny? Right? Like, what's Benny's motive here? Benny has a brother that was discovered about halfway through the movie. Benny's brother was the first person, I think, killed by the Mercy program for a murder that Benny thinks he could not have committed because he was on a phone call with his brother at the time that the murder took place, which is really interesting because also Benny's brother's phone was never recovered. Obviously, Benny's mad, and so his plan, I had to write this out, is to get a job managing a chemical shipping company, join an AA program, and go through the 12-step process. Then have Chris Pratt join the same AA group as you, become his sponsor to learn more about his life and routines. Then, obviously, steal 300 kilos of a chemical to make bombs in your shed. Finally, you're gonna go to a barbecue at Chris's place so you can exact your revenge on one of the detectives working that previous case by driving people there, then having someone else drive your car home. Tell this person you need to stay longer for a private conversation with Chris's wife. Super wise move on that one, Benny. Hide in the basement for an unknown amount of days until you have the opportunity to strike. Wait for a big fight to happen because Chris's wife, Nick, her name was Nick, I just remembered that, found his booze stash. Wait for the fight to end so you can kill her and leave the crime scene unnoticed, but it's a surveillance state, so end up in someone's trunk. I'm still not sure how that happened, but that's how he got out. But of course things have to fall apart, so when you get called by the Mercy program, act super suspicious, give up on your entire original plan of getting him blamed for the murder of the wife, and then go kidnap his daughter with your semi-truck full of explosives to go drive it into the Mercy building and kill everyone. That makes sense? That was pretty crystal clear. This is all insane, but also keep in mind, it's not necessary. Chris still has a well above 92% threshold to get the death penalty. It's not until Benny kidnaps Raver Gamer, which by the way is captured on a Ring camera. Did you know Amazon made this movie? That his percent falls to 0. Oh, I'm gonna say that again. His percent goes from like 94 to 0% guilt. What? This choice makes no sense to me. You have means, motive, and opportunity in the bag for Chris, and this kidnapping does not change anything surrounding the circumstances of the actual murder. So why on earth did it drop to 0%? You can show me security footage of Benny climbing the stairs, stabbing Chris's wife, and walking out while confessing the murder, and it would still not drop to 0%. That is absurd. Either way, Chris gets released from the chair, and finally, as the semi-truck is barreling down LA streets, Chris Pratt is ready to join the action. The final act is going on. So, what would be the most exciting role for him to play here? That's right. He sits his ass back down in that chair and he watches more security cam footage because that's what a hero does. Yes! This semi-truck is straight out of Fast and Furious. It is barreling through the LA streets. It is plowing through cop cars. It is invincible. It's bulletproof. There's nothing that can slow it down. It's going through at like 200 miles an hour like a train. And so the cops, I think rightfully at this point, are like, I'm sorry, Raver Gamer, we gotta blow this thing up because it is a huge threat to the city. I think pretty reasonable. Now, listen, I don't hate Chris Pratt the way some people really do, but he gives a performance here that is so unconvincing that I actually giggled in theaters. And I don't think it's his fault. Like, truly, I don't think it's his fault. His set probably looked like this. All right, Chris, remember, your daughter, the last remaining member of your family, is about to be blown to bits. And action. No! 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 Please don't! Please! No! Cut! We get it? Yeah. Nice. The RCXD goes under the truck, the lieutenant flips the switch, and it's a dud. And then it cuts to Gemini with a guilty look on her face and reveals that she, the impartial AI judge, has decided who lives and who dies. So Benny does crash directly into the Mercy building, presumably killing a lot of people, and then explicitly killing a lot of SWAT guys right as he comes out of the truck. And finally, for the last 5 minutes of this film, Chris Pratt leaves his trial room. Right before Benny is about to blow up the whole block, Judge GPT opens an addendum into Benny's brother's murder case, which is enough of a distraction for Chris Pratt to go and take the battery out of the dead man's switch and then wrestle the gun away from Benny. He then stands up, puts the gun against the back of Benny's head, screams, is going to pull the trigger as his daughter screams for him to stop. And then right as he decides not to shoot Benny, his partner comes in and shoots Benny 3 times. When Chris is understandably like, what the hell just happened? Rufus AI pulls up the phone logs and the security camera footage that shows that Chris's new partner framed Benny's brother by throwing this phone off of a highway overpass, which is an insane character choice. Not because I don't think cops have tampered with evidence before, but because it is so strange for her to frame an innocent man, and it's just never explained why she likes the Mercy system so much. She just really wanted that case to be a slam dunk to prove why Mercy was so good. It's a baffling choice. Thankfully, Benny survived getting shot 3 times. I'm not actually sure he's shown again, but he's definitely still alive. The movie ends, and this is my favorite part. The movie ends with Grok asking Chris Pratt, "What did we just do?" And Chris Pratt says, "What we were programmed to do. Humans, AI, we all make mistakes." And she says, "I suppose we do." And then the credits roll. What are we talking about? I truly cannot imagine being on the writing team for this movie. People are comparing it, I think on the surface, to Minority Report because it has some superficial similarities, but it's not Minority Report. In reality, this movie is very pro-surveillance state, very pro-cop, pro-AI, but even with those messages, it kind of messes it up. Like, it has moments where Judge Maddox has some glitches and errors, but it isn't ready to tackle what the implications of that would be, so it just abandons it. People are initially annoyed when their phones are used for videos and messages that they did not consent to giving up, but the ends justify the means, so they just kind of move on. It's very strange. People are shown also rioting and protesting the Mercy program, which is, I feel like, cartoonishly evil, but it still ends up landing on this message of, well, humans and AI, we make mistakes, and they just move on. It's baffling. They keep going back to this idea of like, well, crime has gone down, so I don't know. What? The funniest part about this to me is that it could not be a more backwards message at a worse time. People hate AI right now, and the idea of giving more power to federal officers right now is laughable. It is hilarious. So who exactly is this movie for? Well, I found them, okay? It is most likely middle-aged men, watches NCIS, maybe a little Law and Order SVU, loves Chris Pratt, obviously, and wouldn't mind if Rebecca Ferguson talked to them right before they died, you know? I think also knows just enough about AI that they think it's omniscient and perfect, but not so much about AI that they realize how absurd and ridiculous this movie is. So that's the target market. Do I think this movie is unwatchable garbage? No. In fact, I actually think I had a pretty good time because it was a big IMAX screen and I had popcorn, but I see a dozen movies every month in theaters. If you want that experience, go see a different movie in theaters. Go watch Avatar. Go see Minority Report at home. Like, you do not need to see this movie. In fact, I would recommend against it. It's not a good movie, and it's not a fun bad movie. It's just a bad movie. And that's a shame. But I am really looking forward to reading the behind the scenes of this in time and also tracking how it does at the box office, because I'm very curious. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate you spending your time with me here. And that's it for me. So I'll see you all later. Peace. At the end of this movie that clearly a lot of people in the audience were not super digging, completely packed theater, one guy starts clapping as the credits roll for about 5 seconds. Nobody joins him, and then he just stops, gets up, and walks out. I felt so bad.